Absolutely. But that's the problem is what you ask, the question you ask is what 99% of marketing reps or salespeople don't ask.
Right.
They don't care to know if it works or how it works. They are just taking a job to go sell a product that's going to earn them a commission to pay their bills. And then that's all they do. They don't want to know if it's really working or how it's working. And that's you asking that question causes people issues, which is why I have issues. I have lots of issues, but that issue would be asking those questions to the companies that you work for of explain to me how this is actually going to help my client.
Welcome to Agency Unplugged. I'm Michael Morris with my sometimes good friend, Sean Brown. Coach Sean Brown. Coach, how are you?
I'm wonderful. And I could have introduced myself, by the way.
This show's already off to a bad start. Sean wanted to, this is our first episode of doing this. And Sean, do you want to discuss why we're doing this?
Oh, now this is my idea?
No, you wanted to interrupt me, so I thought I would let you do that, or I could do the intro.
I could take this. We can run with this. This is a new show that's going to talk about some crazy stuff about marketing, radio, media. We're going to get crazy and talk about the stuff that nobody ever wants to talk about. There's some really crazy shit.
Did you hear that just now?
What?
It's people driving straight into a bridge because that was the worst intro that's ever been done.
That's why I'm not in radio or media or whatever this is.
This is going swimmingly. Listen, here's the reason we're doing this show. We are both, how many clients do you think in your life that you have done some kind of campaign to bring them business?
All of them.
So you've done all of them. Okay, great answer. So I've done over 100. I think that'd be fair. I have probably talked to thousands of people in 20 some years of doing this, 25, 26, 27. The reason we're doing this is to give away free information, but also to let people know when you're doing advertising campaigns or marketing or trying to make money, all the mistakes that you've made, we're just here to kind of clean those up and say, by the way, someone else has done something just as dumb as you, and here's the route to go. Is that a fair way to put it?
Absolutely. Very fair.
So the first thing I wanted to talk about, because we talk about this, would you say we talk 5-6 days a week, every single day?
At least.
Right.
Yeah.
And what do we talk about the most when we find somebody new?
All the stuff that they're doing that's been done incorrectly by somebody who calls himself a professional.
So the purpose of this first show, in one of the things that I find odd, and I've never understood this no matter who you ask this about, I spent the first 14, 15 years of my career in radio, working on it every day, going to see people, and I worked at 3 different radio groups. And it was always the same. When you went to your manager, you would say, but how does this make somebody money? And the answer was always the same. Man, just go sell spots, which is why I don't do that and haven't done that for 15 years, whatever. The question I have for you, Sean, on the other end, because you didn't do traditional media, you did the other, the SEO end, website end. Did you have the same experience where people would say to you, just get them to sign on the dotted line?
Absolutely. But that's the problem is what you ask, the question you ask is what 99% of marketing reps or salespeople don't ask.
Right.
They don't care to know if it works or how it works. They are just taking a job to go sell a product that's going to earn them a commission to pay their bills. And then that's all they do. They don't want to know if it's really working or how it's working. And that's you asking that question causes people issues, which is why I have issues. I have lots of issues, but that issue would be asking those questions to the companies that you work for of explain to me how this is actually going to help my client. How's it going to help them grow their business? How's it going to bring in revenue? How's it going to help them pay their bills? When I ask them to spend X amount of dollars with me, it's got to produce X, Y, and Z for them to justify the expense. And most people don't want to answer those questions because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and BS out there that's not really helping people.
Do you want to explain how we met?
Sure. And you can leave the pizza part out of it because I don't think
that's accurate. Pizza part is very important.
It's not because you fabricate that a little bit. But very large auto repair body shop here in town, was a client who called me in to ask me a bunch of questions because somebody else, I think, tried to sell them something, and they wanted to know if they needed to buy something, if they needed to do something differently. And so I go in to give them a presentation and talk about everything they're doing. We put it up on the screen. We look at all their analytics. We look at what they're doing. They ask if they should do this. I say no, based off the type of business they were looking to generate. It wasn't going to work. We had a really good meeting, and there was pizza involved, but Michael was sitting at the end of the table, and I didn't know who he was or why he was there, but he was there I'll let him explain, but
he's leaving out the key details. What happened is my reputation is that I do everything based on mathematics, right? So it is, how do we get a return on investment? That's all I care about. I don't care what we buy or what we do. So they thought it would be funny because they watched me kind of rip somebody's ass apart a week before to do this to Sean, who I don't know. So when I come into this meeting, I'm irritated because they've sent me to go pick up pizza somewhere to a place that's closed. So when I get in there, they have ordered pizza from another place. Sean is sitting there, and this screen is like, I don't know, what'd you say, 10-foot screen of all the things that they could buy, like a menu at like the Cheesecake Factory. Sean he's listening to them, but he's not selling them anything. So my intention is to challenge him on why he's trying to sell this. So they say, well, what about this reputation management thing? And instead of looking at them, he opens a pizza box and he says, you don't need it. You've already got that. It doesn't matter. Your reputation is already great. They ask him about buying another thing. And so I'm just watching him, waiting on him to say something. And he goes, you don't need that. By the third time, I just said, listen, man, what the fuck is your problem? And he said, well, they don't need it. And I said, what are we doing here in this meeting? Why are we here? And he says, if they don't need it, I'm not going to sell it to them. And I said, we're leaving. And we went to a Mexican restaurant to go down the street. And I said, I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to set up 4 meetings. I'm going to watch you do this. And I want you to explain to my clients exactly what they need and what they don't. And I watched it 4 more times. And I said, I will give you all of the business that I do moving forward. Not because I trusted the company you were with, because I trusted you. And I think if more people were direct and honest and to the point, relationships would be better, but also you could find out what works and what doesn't. Because you didn't try to sell them or sell me on you. You were just honest. How many people have you met that are in traditional media where you go, I better check to see if my wallet's in my back pocket?
Oh, everybody. I mean, we won't even name them, but there's people that will sell anything to anybody. And it's funny as
we know one of those guys.
I know. That's why I wasn't going to say. But I do know that this is the first time knowing Michael for now. How long have we known each other? A couple of years?
Oh, it was pre-pandemic.
All right. So a couple of years I've known him, and this is the first time I've heard that story that they actually tried to send you down the road to buy pizza. Oh, did I not tell you that? At somewhere that was closed. They probably didn't want you at the meeting because they sent him down the road to buy pizza from somewhere that was closed.
I think they did that to irritate me, to attack you, because they know how I don't like to be late.
Well,
and it was worth it.
And they probably didn't know me very well, but figured that if they gave me pizza, I wouldn't retaliate because I was eating pizza. But yes, lots of people, you can't trust your wallet around them. And that was an interesting experience because it was enabled me to help some people that were being taken advantage by a very decent size, Ohio-owned marketing company.
Why don't you just say the name at this point? Everyone's going to look it up. I'm kidding. They're going out of business anyway. You'll find out.
I think they sold, actually. So that's what they all do. They all build to sell, and they don't care about the clients. They just care about getting numbers on the books. So that's a whole nother episode.
Can you give me an example of what your day-to-day, well, tell people exactly what you did to begin with, what your day-to-day was back then, and what the intent, what they wanted you to do. I think you were going to say the name of the client. Do not say the name of the company.
No, I'm not saying the name of the company.
The name of the company is Best Buy.
It's not Best Buy. No, I mean, you get hired to do a job and you're told to go sell a specific product to people that is supposed to help them. And Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But if you ask the right questions and you dig in, which most people don't, they just go sell it. There's probably 800 people still selling it on the streets today to local business owners. And quickly they realize that they wasted money on something that didn't help them. But I don't know where I was going at with that now. But yeah, I mean, it's day to day.
Your day to day. So you had quotas to hit.
Yeah.
So there's pressure to do that.
Oh, there's always pressure. You know, I mean, it was, they had certain products that actually worked that did help. And then they had products that kind of worked and then it didn't work. And you had to kind of realize what was best for each client, because you can't just put every client in a manila envelope and expect that everything you're going to give them works. Every business is different and every product affects different types of businesses differently. So yeah, I mean, we had quotas, we had, goals you had to hit and things like that. And I was very good at it. I usually hit my annual goal by the end of March, but it was just selling the parts that people needed. It wasn't selling the parts that made me the most money. It just allowed me to have freedom because I hit goals. But, that was the demise of that employment, was very high level conversations with important people on how these products didn't work. And I would prove to them it didn't work. But if you're trying to go public, if you're trying to build to sell, if you're, appealing to stockholders, it definitely, they don't give a crap about the poor small business owner who's trying to run a business and, raise a family. So, had to get away from there.
The best example I can give you of how this should work and why it doesn't work and why every media company on the planet is going bankrupt. And when I say that, you can look this up. Disney's having problems. It's not that they're running out of money. Their profit margins are disappearing, because what happens is if you don't take care of the client the right way in the beginning, you're going to burn that client. But the thing is, that client will talk to 9 more people, because it's not that big. When we look at life and we look at, there's 50 states and then all these other people, there's 336 million people that live in the United States. They're not all going to hear about your shit reputation. But what happens is enough of them hear about the company first, followed by you. So if you don't do the right thing, you're burning that company, because they're going to say, Sean with Best Buy, that guy's a jackass. What they heard was Best Buy is a jackass and whoever they employ doesn't work out. The lack of empathy for the person who owns that business, because the way I always looked at it was, if I make them money, I'm helping their family. And I know that's like, I'm not a very sensitive person. I'm not saying it that way. But if I help them, they'll continue to spend money. If I prove my value and I prove that I can make them money, they're not going to go anywhere. They become loyal. If I'm just selling you a thing to make a budget, at some point you realize this is a grocery store. Just down the conveyor belt, bag it and go. The people who do not succeed are the people that just are there for the sale. You don't have to be friends with these people. And I tell Sean and I tell Nate all the time. Nate, by the way, thank you for being here today.
He's not paying attention. He's on his phone.
You're welcome.
He's on Tinder right now. But you can close the deal on Tinder. What I find is that people, especially in my business, they do not care if it works or not. But the other part is they don't know how it works. Whether you're selling radio, TV, billboards, people are selling you the merits of the product without saying that it works. But what used to piss me off so bad is in radio, this is from like 1998 to 2010. The last page of every proposal says, at the end of the campaign, we will do a review of your ROI.
Really?
And you go, yeah, okay. And then I took it to my boss. I can tell you exactly when it was, because it was it was in 2003. And I said, there was a huge car dealer here. And I said, how are we going to determine the ROI? Like, where's that answer? And they said, we just put that in the back of this all the time. And I said, are you shitting me? Like, we don't even know if it works. And you know why it doesn't work? Because if you buy one radio station, one TV station, and you just run there all day long, now you have a way to measure if this works or not. If you buy 5 radio stations, 3 TV stations, 12 billboards, you don't know what's working, right? And you don't have a good enough relationship with a client to say, can you tell me what your numbers are? Because you're just a sales rep and they just treat you that way. when you're doing what we do in the agency world, they're going to tell you because they're going to say, I did $13,000 last month and the door's going to close. And then when they do $39,000, they say the same thing, but they're not going to give you credit for increasing the business. They're just going to say, we're doing better than we were. Your goal should be to figure out, number one, what their return on each product is and how you can get them there. Fair enough to say?
Absolutely. And that's funny. I never knew that they put that on the back, but most marketers run away from the ROI because they have to prove value and they have to prove conversions. You know, that's kind of hard to do in radio anyway. But
what's hard to do in anything? Because again, let's take two identical radio schedules and there aren't two that are the same. So there's an A, B, and C level. Your A is like your top 40 or country or whatever. Your B level is going to be like your active rock. And it depends by market. So active rock in Houston might be huge and country is not. And country is huge in Columbus, vice versa. But what happens is it's all based on the rate the station needs to get. So if the station radio budget for the year is $10 million, they're figuring out how much they have to make every single month to get to that number. None of that has to do with a client succeeding. Not one bit. So as they're doing that, they're saying, okay, you're going to buy a country station. Well, now you need to buy our news talk format. Well, if the rates aren't the same, the schedules aren't the same, and the audience isn't the same, how can you do an ROI when two things are doing diametrically different things? You can't. So you know what they say? Well, just buy our third station and you're going to capture all these people 25-54. How do you know that? Oh, you don't know that? That's the thing that kills me is that people will say this, if you don't buy this station, you're making a huge mistake. The only thing that matters, and write this down, Nate, write this down, is frequency. How many times you can reach the same people over and over again. And there is a rule of 3, and that applies to anything. 3 little bears, 3 people going to Diddy's house, whatever. It's the frequency that you can do this. The rule used to be up until Facebook and all these other stupid ass apps that we all have on our phone that I want to play on right now. It's now 17 to 20 times you have to reach somebody for them to make a purchasing decision. People still sell radio, TV, billboard the same way they did in 1980. How can you give me a return on my investment? You can't. And that's why what Sean does is very important because I call him and I say, tell me everything wrong with this guy's website or tell me everything wrong with the campaign that you see here that's not radio, TV, billboard. Is that your favorite time when I call you? Because you do this a lot. Why don't you ever just call me just to be friendly? Because I'm not doing that right now. I'll call you later and do that. And I never do. And we always look at websites and all that stuff. What is it you're looking for? Are you looking for errors? Or are you looking for what works?
Both. I mean, you're looking for the metrics that should perform to drive business. I mean, and on a side note, if you didn't have a piece of paper to write yourself a note, where would you write your note at? Curious. Where would you write your note at?
I'd write it on my hand.
No shit, because I just saw you got stuff written all over your hand.
I write on myself every day.
I know. It threw me off. It's like ADD while you were telling that whole story. I'm like looking at what you wrote on your hand.
What if I was writing the secret of ROI on my hand and I was going to show it to the camera?
There's not a secret to ROI. That's the problem.
What if this was the notes for my show?
Well, you haven't
stop looking at it.
I know. I was distracted.
You know what I love about you is your ADD only kicks in 100% of the time.
Yeah, but it's only like 3 sentences into every story you're telling because you lose me half the time because we're on different wavelengths.
This is my fault.
Yes. On an intellectual level, he's like way over here and he talks way up here and he sends me like memes all the time. And I look at these memes on my phone and I look at my wife and I'm like, what the hell does this mean? I just text him back. I'm like, I don't get it.
Sean texts me back one time and he goes, hey man, I'm sure this is supposed to be funny, but my wife, I think you're offending her. And I was just like, listen, I'm not really paying attention when I'm doing this. I was probably talking to a client. Just so you know, if you're ever talking to me on the phone, I'm doing 2 things at once. And most of the time it's memes. I hear what you're saying. I'm just doing the work while I'm sending out offensive memes.
And if you get the memes or if you get the video or you get the movie clip, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have a clue what he's trying to say.
I'm not really communicating.
I think that's why we're still
effectively.
friends, is I haven't been offended yet because I don't know what he's trying to offend me about.
I always like this response. What? That's all it says is what? And I'm like, I don't even know what I sent you. Just move on. Speaking of moving on, I want you to tell me this. I'm going to tell you how I look at this. When I look at schedules or I look at concepts of how people are doing their marketing, I don't care what's working at all. I want to find all the broken stuff because typically when we find somebody,
that's wrong. You can't not worry about what's working because things that work complement each other. So you got to know what's working too, not just what's broke.
No, you're the positive guy. I'm the guy that's looking for the messed up stuff. That's why it works. I send you this and there's nothing more.
This is what I mean. You're not, you think of me as the positive guy. Everybody that would ever see this knows that I'm Mr. Negative. I'm critiquing everything that's wrong. Not
just so you know this, I had to call Nate because you devastated that big deal that we did with the station group and all that stuff, right? You're looking at me like we've never talked before. When we did that deal, you met me for lunch and I was jacked. I was through the roof. I'm like, you don't even understand how big this is going to be. And you go, yeah, but what'd you price it at? And I'm like, what are you doing? What? You're the professional wet blanket. But you only do it to me because everybody else you go, listen, man, I think it's a great idea to drive your kids in the river. You should do that. You're never positive when I tell you something.
Because I'm the negative guy and you're sitting here saying I'm the positive guy.
To me. Everybody else.
No, ask my kids. I'm the guy whose son went into a Midnight Madness college basketball visit and they pulled him out of the stands in a pair of jeans, a sweatshirt, and hadn't warmed up and went out and hit 14 out of 15 threes in a row in front of the whole school. And when we get to the restaurant with the coaches and everybody's bragging about how well he did, I told him that he had too much movement on his lower body and he was jumping too far forward on his jump, and that his release, he wasn't extending his elbow. And they all looked at me like I was crazy because I picked out every negative.
I want you to put like that sad music they put in Titanic. You know, when all the people were floating the dead bodies, just put that there. The good news is that son is one of the best criminals in Tennessee. What I'm saying to you is when you are very positive around, especially with the clients, and you'll see something bad. I'll give you an example. Someone that installs water heaters. So when we had our water heater guy in here, you were talking about how he'd done all these things right. And then you said, but here's the glaring issue was the thing you pointed out and you go, but this is wrong. So it was almost like 90% of this is great, but it really doesn't matter because here's where the hole in your boat is, right? I don't think you intend to do it that way. But that's what I mean by you can be the wet blanket because you can let somebody go, oh, this does suck, but he said it in a nice way.
I'm surprised that you looked at that as a 90-some% positive because I don't remember it that way because he really did a few things well, but all the things he was paying for, and I think he even asked, like, what do you think of this person and that person that you talked to? And we were like, complete idiots.
Well, when we were talking about the individual, okay, sorry. I meant when you just looked at his site and his campaigns.
Oh, yeah, no, site was good.
That was positive.
Yeah, you're right. Because his site ranked really well all over Columbus, even though other people are telling him he needs SEO. And SEO that's what it does, which his already did very well. And he had 400 some reviews. He was
crushing that.
He's crushing it from a perspective.
From the organic side of things too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not generating.
But then he said, well, what do you think of this person, their work? And you went, oh, that's all garbage. You got to get rid of them.
Oh yeah. I mean, because you know it is when you talk to a marketing person and they talk for like, like I grew up in a middle-class home, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like in circles and like nothing actually valuable comes out of it. Like, that's exactly how I felt talking to these marketing people. Like, oh, well, we could do a promotion and we could do this and we could.
That's the call I was going to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Let's say they're not intertwined. I'm in a parking lot in a Giant Eagle, and shout out to Giant Eagle for their parking lots. And I said to Sean, can you get on this call? because would you say of the two of us, who's going to be friendly on the call and who's going to blow someone's ass out? Of the two of us, who's going to be nicer on the call? So I wanted you on the call to be the good guy. And within 30 seconds, you start undressing this person in a very nice way. Like, yeah, but that's not what this is. And that's not what that is. And blah, 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 blah. To the point where they stopped talking because you basically just said, yeah, but none of that matters. And
then, if you remember what she thought, what they said. Well, she said,
he,
she, that it said was, oh, I'm going to write some blogs. I'm going to write 4 blogs. I'm like, why? Blogs are an SEO strategy that generates organic traffic. And this guy already ranks in every freaking city in Central Ohio. Like,
can I do what you did?
What'd I do?
So I'm going to write the blogs and then stop. And I'm going to do what you did to them.
Oh yeah. She goes, I'm going to write blogs.
Blogs don't matter. You literally they don't matter. And then they said, I think that they do. And you go, yeah, but they don't. And that stops everything.
I guess they could matter in a different situation.
It was 1999. They would matter.
They can matter if you're trying to build some presence, but when you already rank in the top 3
right.
in all of every Central Ohio suburb and city, that's what you build to achieve. And this person already achieved it. And to sit there, it's kind of like saying, my tank is full and I'm just going to go put some more gas in it so I can spill it all over the floor. Gas is cheap,
so I'm going to put more gas in a full tank.
Yeah, and I'm going to spill it all over the ground just so I can say I did it, so that I could charge somebody some money to do it when it's really not necessary. No matter, nowadays you go to ChatGPT and ask you to write 4,000 blogs in it to do it. So it's like not a very valuable resource.
That was the one question we didn't ask, because I was wondering, like,
if she
how are you writing 20 blogs about a plumbing item? Like, how different could they be? Well, if you have no background.
ChatGPT.
I understand that, but I'm saying,
but if you don't have background in plumbing, how would you know how to differentiate?
Yeah, I couldn't run a dance studio without having the background, but if ChatGPT would tell me how to do it, does it make it any good to do that? Probably not.
I think we're coming to the end of this episode. We didn't talk about anything we said we were going to talk about.
But that's the good news, son. We have more shows coming out. So stay tuned.
For the episode that means nothing of Radio is Dead.
We're going to get to that. By the way, we're going to tune in next week. Radio is Dead. Come back for it. This has been Agency Unplugged. See you later.